Hello, I'm Mike, a yoga teacher, and today we're going to do a practice meditation and yoga on Psalm 1. I'll read a passage from the Bible. This is the New International Version, and just read the Psalm, then we can reflect on it if you want, and then we'll move into some movement for about 25 minutes of yoga, and then spend the last 5 minutes doing some meditation. Psalm 1. Blessed is the one who does not walk in step with the wicked, or stand in the way that sinners take, or sit in the company of mockers, but whose delight is in the law of the Lord, and who meditates on his law day and night. That person is like a tree planted by streams of water, which yields its fruit in season, and whose leaf does not wither. Whatever they do prospers. Not so the wicked. They are like chaff that the wind blows away. So I'm actually going to split up the reading. This is a relatively shorter psalm, but I'll read the rest of it later in the session. Some of the psalms are longer, so it's probably best not to read it all through the beginning, but just break it up throughout the practice. We can start today sitting and being aware of our posture. For feeling a bit tight, from not having moved, just being aware, moving the shoulders back and down. And tucking in the core a bit, but opening up the upper chest, upper torso there. Staying balanced on our sit bones into the mat or into the ground. And then let's take a few breaths here, reflecting on what we've just read. And we can move to a kneeling position. Get some movement into the body and the spine area. Doing some cat-cow. We'll exhale and round the back, tucking in the pelvic bone. Inhaling and arching, opening the chest forward. We'll do a few rounds of this. Inhaling as we're opening, exhaling as we're rounding. Do this for a couple more rounds. And then we can come back into a kneeling posture if it's comfortable. Otherwise, just sitting on the mat. Noticing again in this sort of hero pose, I've heard it called, we can notice if our core is tucked in slightly and our chest is opened. Have a little bit better posture. Taking a few breaths here. Perhaps feeling a sense of gratitude for the day as we're moving forward. with the rest of the day. Let's move into some kneeling lunge stretches. We can incorporate stretches in our practice if it's bringing awareness into the body and also the mind. Stepping 1 foot forward, and then if you need a prop, you can use a block or your wrist, your fist, and then just gently remaining here, we're stretching into the opposite side hip flexor area. Taking a few breaths. Bringing the hips kind of square to the front to target stretching that attachment point on the hip flexor. Now we can move into a hamstring stretch on the other leg, extending that leg lengthened, the one that was out in front, and then reaching forward, keeping sort of a flat back at first, and hinging forward from the hips. Feeling the stretch along the back of that extended leg, maybe placing the hand around the balls of the feet, the front foot. Taking a few breaths here. And returning back into that hero sitting pose. Resting back on the ankles or sitting on the mat. I will go to the other side, extending or actually stepping forward with the other foot, using a prop if necessary or using the fist to give some support as we're targeting these attachment points along the thigh and the hip. Now moving into extension of the front leg, we place the heel a little bit forward, hinging forward from the hips and reaching towards the front toes. Maybe the balls of the feet is a little more stable. Just gives a place to put the hand. Don't really have to reach like that forcefully, but we can also place our hand on the shin. Noticing the sensation along the leg. Maybe feeling the contraction and release of certain muscles along the hamstrings and calves. Returning to the seated pose, and I'll read the rest of Psalm 1. Therefore the wicked will not stand in the judgment, nor sinners in the assembly of the righteous. For the Lord watches over the way of the righteous, but the way of the wicked leads to destruction. If any of that resonates, we can reflect on it. Moving into a standing posture, we'll step forward into a lunge, standing lunge. Stepping forward with one foot and extending the back leg. Both feet are pointing forward here. Finding our balance. Looking forward, again, focusing on the pelvic tilt that is kind of bracing the core a bit, and then opening the upper body, the chest. It's a little bit good posture here to just, any posture is fine, but a lot of times we're tight and without realizing it, we're rounding our upper back and we're extending our lower back like that. So this just counters a lot of what we find ourselves in the position we're in most times of the day, if we're not aware. So even now I still have, a little bit, it's fine. The spine is curved. It's meant to be curved, but this is just to bring awareness. We can step forward with the back leg, and let's step back into lunge on the other side. Noticing any difference along the leg muscles, the way we're feeling as we're breathing. I'm noticing it into my left foot. Feels kind of nice to give it a stretch. And I'm noticing a little bit of a different balance between the left and right muscles. You may feel like it's twisting your body towards one side, or you're feeling a little different sense of balance with one leg versus the other in these positions. Just bringing awareness. One side might be tighter in certain muscles. Now let's step forward onto the mat into mountain pose. Taking a few breaths here, we'll move into some sun salutation. Inhaling, raising the arms overhead. Taking a breath and exhaling, folding forward. Inhaling and looking up forward. And exhaling, stepping back into plank pose. Lowering down to the ground. We can hover if we want, or come all the way down, just for today. Inhaling, rising up into cobra. And exhaling, lowering. Now we're going to press back into kneeling position, like we started at the beginning. Noticing our fingers spread wide, our palms against the ground. knees below the hips. And from here, we can press back into downward facing dog. Again, feeling perhaps a stretch along the legs, pressing the hips up towards the sky. Taking a few breaths here. And when you're ready, coming back into that kneeling posture, giving my foot a little stretch there. Definitely a little bit more limited range in my left ankle than the right. But we can work on that. Let's take an inhale, moving into cat-cow again, and exhaling, rounding forward. Inhaling into cat-cow, exhaling, rounding. Now we're going to step forward with one foot and both feet together. Inhaling with a flat back and exhaling, folding. Now inhaling, slowly rising up into mountain pose again. We'll just do that one vinyasa for today. We did it kind of on the one side, but it just brings awareness to the stretching, the different musculature, the breathing. And if I weren't talking as much, it might bring awareness into the mind. It's definitely helpful to prevent things like plantar fasciitis or any kind of like pulling a hamstring because it gets tight and imbalanced. And all of a sudden one day you pull a muscle if you're not moving it or stretching it properly. Now, of course, there's a whole science to all that, but generally speaking, it's better to do something than nothing. So we'll move back towards the mat here. Inhaling, raising up. Exhaling. Let's just squat down and sit down onto the mat. You can face whichever way is comfortable. And we'll spend about a few minutes here doing some twists. We can sit like this, noticing again the posture. Taking an inhale, reaching the arms overhead, and then placing them in front and behind, twisting to one side. Starting from the core, opening the chest and twisting. Taking some breaths. Returning to the center and inhaling, raising the arms up, exhaling, lowering one to the other side, front and behind you. Extending through the spine and twisting towards the other side. Going back to center, let's do some neck stretches as well. Get that in there. Bringing the chin down towards the chest, maybe gently placing the hand on the top back of the head and guiding it down into one side, rolling your ear towards the shoulder. Keeping the opposite side shoulder down and away from the other ear. Just feeling the stretch. You're going to feel it along that opposite side. Taking a few breaths, not forcing anything, just gently placing the hand on top. Returning to center, rolling your chin down to the chest again, and stretching towards the other side. We'll do another twist, finding ourselves with our legs extended in front. Let's reach our arms overhead, keeping as kind of a flat back as possible. Inhaling and exhaling, folding forward. For me, that's really as far as I'm going to go with a generally flat back, but I can kind of hinge from the hip and then allow myself to get a little stretch in there. Should feel good. It shouldn't feel forced. But I feel it in my lower back and a little bit in my calves, actually. And then we'll bring one foot towards the heel, the sit bone on the other side, and then the other foot across that front knee, and we'll do a seated twist from here. Now already I'm tight on the kind of the IT band, gluteal area there. So that's as far as I'm gonna go. I mean, I can force, but I'm feeling it right there. Focusing on extending the spine and breathing. And then twisting towards one side. Extending the legs again. Bringing the other heel next to the other sit bone. And that other front foot across the front knee. Extending up through the torso. I'm feeling the stretch right around here. And then I'm just gonna extend up and then twist towards that side. Feels good for me to place my hand here today. Now we can get ready for our seated meditation, reflecting on the Psalm 1 and what it's meaning, what it has in meaning for us. We can sit in that same hero posture. We can lie on our backs. We'll spend about 5 minutes here, again, noticing the posture and then also being aware of the breathing. bringing some awareness into the environment which you're in as we're moving towards opening the eyes if they were closed, maybe coming to a seated posture. Hope you've enjoyed this practice, and thank you for joining. Have a great day.